All right, so the next major family or category of technology you want to get something from is the cut and dig. These are basically your tools. They can be as big as an axe. This is a small axe, or a tomahawk, or a hatchet. There's different versions of that. A full camp axe. I wouldn't go out with a splitting maul, but sometimes a full camp axe or a tomahawk is great to have. And then this is a Sven saw. There's others. Was it Deep Woods Arboreal? But anyway, a folding buck saw, that's great to have, or a fold-up buck saw. And then maybe a small folding pocket saw. This is the Bahco Laplander, which is great because it's super light, just goes in the pocket. And I can get, this is usually my go-to saw. If we're doing a group camp and we're gonna be bucking wood for fire, as opposed to just cutting up a few little twigs for my natural fuel stove, or maybe a emergency fire or some bushcrafting, I would take a bigger, this is a 15-inch, you get a 21-inch, the Sven saws we carry. So you can get a bigger piece of wood. I might even go with a full-size shovel for my cutting and digging. So this is my shovel. This is the Cold Steel Spetsnaz shovel. Mine's named the Badger. I've had this shovel for maybe 32, 33 years. It's a great shovel. I'm on probably the third handle. But once a decade I break it or it wears out. But these shovels are great. They're sharpened along, especially mine, sharpened along a couple edges, so I can use this as an improvised axe or a kind of a hacking, chopping tool. But as I always tell people, you'd be surprised how much more often you move earth and dirt than you actually cut down, build log cabins. So if I had to choose between an axe, a hatchet, or my shovel, I'll take this because I can get double duty with it. And then I just keep this one in my Jeep at all times because it helps me dig my Jeep out if I get stuck. Then I just keep a carabiner on it, which in one of the other videos I probably should have mentioned the carabiners, a couple strong climbing rated, not keychain BS carabiners, but climbing rated carabiners, heavy duty, are great for shelter. They don't weigh anything, you clip them on your bag, hundreds of uses. But that's a good shovel. Sometimes people opt for these folding type shovels, these military entrenching tools that unfold, and you can use this at 90 degrees as like an entrenching hoe. You can make it as a shovel to dig. I'm not a fan of them necessarily, just because, I mean, they're great for most things, but they have moving parts. Too many moving parts means too many possible failures in the field. My Spetsnaz shovel, if the Badger fails in the field, which it rarely does because it's got a nice welded, what do they call that funnel part? I don't know what that's called offhand, but it's welded so it won't split or bend. And if I do break the handle, which I've done before, I can use my multi-tool or my even a coin to twist those screws out and just replace a new handle in the field. So that's not usually a big deal. I used to take this with the screws out in the handle, and then when I'd get there I would use a longer stick to make a full-size shovel if I had a big earth-moving project I was going to do, like an underground or a semi-buried shelter. But typically I prefer this. It's not as heavy, the packability is a little less convenient than a folding shovel, but it makes up for it in its function. Now in the winter, especially in Michigan, in a pod we'll throw collapsible snow shovels in, because that's not good for moving snow or wet slush. You're going to want a wide scooped snow shovel. So you get some lightweight aluminum or titanium snow shovels. Again, depending on the parameters of your campaign, you know how big or what type of shovel to take. The folding shovel, if that's what you have, the Spetsnaz or Army entrenching tools. And then, at the very least, you can take a trowel. So I have several different types of trowels. This one is by Vargo. This is the Vargo Titanium Stake Trowel. So they've advertised these. You can also pound this in and use it as an improvised stake or a snow anchor. And then it's got these little serrations so you can really chop up to dig a cat hole when you're relieving yourself. You always want to bury your waste. Well, almost always want to bury your waste. So if you don't have a full shovel just for toilet duty, you can use a digging stick. But if there's no sticks available, it's always good to have a trowel with you. This is another this one doesn't have the label on it. I'll have to remember what that is when we put it in the description. But this is a great trowel. This one comes with little holes, so I can use some paracord and lash it to a stick to get a little more leverage. So I like that one. And this one is the Ace of Spades. This is a little titanium trowel that I have taped a bottle of hand sanitizer to, and this is usually my go-to toilet kit trowel. So I use this, I dig out my cat hole, then I've got my hand sanitizer taped there. Makes the handle a little more comfortable, and I always know where my hand sanitizer's at. So you should always at least have a trowel with you so you don't have to rig up a digging stick. Get one of these aluminum or titanium lightweight ones. They cost anywhere from, I've seen those orange plastic ones too. I think Emily has one of the orange plastic. Anywhere from $2 to $30 you can get a little trowel. If you're going to be doing more serious digging or you're going with a group, maybe one or two of you bring a full-size shovel or snow shovel. So that's for the digging. Cutting, at least big cutting, we talked about maybe a full-size camp axe for the group. One or two people bringing a tomahawk or a hatchet. I prefer tomahawks as opposed to hatchets because I don't want to make noise. Tomahawks, I can do field expedient repairs. I can cut and shape a stick or a new handle if I break it. If I bring a hatchet and I break the head off, it's a lot more work to fashion a handle for your hatchet head as opposed to a tomahawk. And again, maybe I just throw this in the bottom of my bag and I don't even take the handle. Like we go on to Manitou Island, I think if I needed a tomahawk for some reason, then I could break out this and fashion a handle in the woods. But I prefer tomahawks for my chopping type device. We talked about the Sven saw or the Bahco Laplander. This is usually my go-to saw. I just throw that in the kit. Especially if I have my shovel, I don't even take a tomahawk or a hatchet with me because I don't expect to do a lot of heavy chopping. Now a more personal line of cutting and digging, obviously a small trowel, but is to have your 3 knives on you. And then you can add the cutting saw and hatchet level. You're going to want to have some sort of multi-tool or Swiss Army knife. Multi-tools are great because they have the plier function or sometimes the scissors. Right? So this is our Leatherman Signal. We've done a video on that. We love the Signal. Got a whole bunch of features. But a multi-tool, besides having an extra knife blade, and usually, like with a multi-tool or Swiss Army, a small saw for making notches or fashioning triggers and for traps and such. It's got extra functionality like pliers, wire cutters, the hammer pole, screwdrivers. You never know. These are super useful. So I always have a multi-tool or Swiss Army knife. And then I always keep a personal knife. Usually I'll carry a Spyderco Dragonfly in orange, or an Endura or a Delica in orange, something that's bright and visible, or got a little fob I won't lose as a personal knife. But anything that's just a small little knife with high visibility that you're not really going to use, it's just in case knife. It's your personal knife. It's always on your body. I get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I'm laying in my shelter. Anything, I always have this knife on me. I wear this under my shirt next to my body. This one is the Izula Candiroo. So this is a nice knife. What we used to call a string and cheese knife. I use it to cut string or my cheese when I'm eating. But a personal knife, fixed blade is best, just something nice and small, under 2 inches. That goes with my multi-tool. Those are my 2 cutting tools that I always have. And then you're going to want a good belt knife. This one is in a leather dangler sheath from JRE. This is my LT Wright Nessmuck, or Camp Muck, I think is the model. I don't want to get into knives on this video. Everybody's got opinions about knives. But your basic camp knife is a belt knife. I suggest, we've got videos on this, make sure the handle is comfortable. Make sure it's easy and convenient to carry. If you carry one of those big old Rambo knives, 14-inch knives, because you're compensating for something, I don't know why you would do that. Or you're going to chop with a knife. If you're going to chop, bring a hatchet. But a knife is for a lot of things, not necessarily for chopping. Although in a pinch, I don't have the hatchet, I don't have my saw, I don't have the shovel. I can use this to split wood, cut down small trees. There's all sorts of ways you can use the knife. But you want to make sure it's a full tang. It's got a nice sharp spine for scraping and some woodworking, a center-lined tip for drilling and other tasks, and of course it's super, super sharp. we'll get into grinds and different things later. But a good belt knife. My belt knife has to be convenient to carry too. So I have it in this dangler leather sheath. I might carry it around at camp, or I might just leave it in my bag. If we're just going, say, to Manistee River and we're just kind of hiking all day, I don't need my knife dangling around. I have my personal knife on my body and my Swiss Army or my multi-tool in my pocket. I've already got 2 knives if things go really sideways. So I don't necessarily have to have this out all the time. But if you are going to carry your belt knife as your main tool, make sure it's convenient to carry. Another option is I had Doug Wilson over at Yellow Hawk Custom Kydex fashion me a custom Kydex sheath for my LT Wright camp muck. And Doug does a great job. He even put an extra fire steel on there, so I've got an extra fire starting device. And I carry this at a cross draw at a cant on my belt. This is convenient, especially in the winter. I put it on my outer layer, or I strap it to the pack strap on my backpack, so I have my belt knife conveniently organized. I have a little Kydex sheath for my Azula too, or not my Azula, my Essie. So I use it in that nylon sheath because I can carry it next to me. But if I wanted this out and this was going to be my main knife, I could carry that on my belt. It's kind of wee, but you know, it gets the job done. I would maybe take this as my main knife if I were taking a tomahawk and a saw, because I wouldn't need the knife for anything other than cutting string and cheese. So I don't need it, a great big knife. If I'm going to not take a tomahawk or a hatchet or even a big shovel, I'll definitely take a belt knife with me, because I can use this for so many different things. Don't over-rely on your knife, because you've seen too many of those goofy survival shows where the guy goes out with one special knife that does every trick in the book and thinks that's all he needs is a knife. You definitely need a knife, but it's not the only tool you need. Right? So cutting and digging, you want to have your personal knife, your multi-tool or Swiss Army knife. You're going to want to, oh, there's Logan's microphone cord. You're going to have your personal knife, your multi-tool, and then probably a belt knife of some sort, depending on what you're doing. A saw of some sort, and a chopping or cutting device like an axe if you're going to be processing a lot of wood or doing bushcrafting. And then some sort of digging tool, definitely a hand trowel for your bathroom privileges, or if you're going to be carrying a full shovel and or snow shovel, maybe you can leave the trowel at home. That does make me want to say one other thing. Oh, here's another type of folding pocket saw. This is a Silky pocket gomboy. So this is a nice little saw. Bahco Laplander and the Silkies are probably the most common of the little pocket saws. This one's got 2 positions actually, so it can go on a different angle in case you got to really bear down. So this is a pretty cool one. I like this one a lot because it's red. The only drawback to the Bahco Laplander is it's black and green. Drop it and that's probably it, depending on where you're at. So that's a good point. Maybe mention our what I call the mark factor from years ago. Talk about that later. But bright colored gear is better if you're not doing stealth camping or you're trying to hide for some other reason that we don't want to get into on these kind of videos. Bright colored gear is best. That way, if you drop it, you can find it. Okay? And the last thing I wanted to mention is bushcrafting tools. If you are going out to do on land where you have permission or private land or your own property, another good piece of kit to take is some kind of auger so you can drill holes or eyelets through things. So like a little 1-inch Scotch eye auger, so you can drill in. This is a great piece of bushcrafting kit to have, and you can get these in all different sizes. We use it to make tables and stools and different devices if you're going out just to do some bushcrafting in particular. It's good to have that. I wouldn't carry this as a regular piece of my kit just because I'm not necessarily going to do a lot of that kind of bushcrafting as a rule, but sometimes that's nice to have. I think on the list I wrote in the italics, which indicates optional items, bushcraft tools. This may be a draw knife. We definitely use those draw knives when we were making the teepee poles. So a draw knife and an auger are good to have with you. Again, depending on the parameters of that particular campaign. But have some sort of cutting and digging tools with you at all times. I prefer the 3 knives and a shovel method, or hand trowel. So that's it for cut and dig.